Hello everyone and welcome to my workshop where I'll be going through a sex scene and how my thought process goes through the sex scene and how to create intimacy within the scene and make sure the rhythm and the pacing is correct when going through. It doesn't have to be on Premiere, it doesn't have to be on any specific type of editing software. It's just the general tips and tricks that I do to go through it and go through each individual shot. And as well as that, I'll be going through an argument scene and a action scene just to show how you can get that fierce, like very make people feel uncomfortable when they're watching. That's what you want to do, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now in this workshop. Well, my opinions on how you can get that right. Yeah, so let's get started. Right, so let's start off with the first shot of the sex scene, which focuses on Nat's character Kane, which is how I wanted to introduce the scene because it was his decision to arrive and meet up with James's character. Because those two were, having a bit of a scuffle at the start of the film of arguments and disagreements. So now showing that it's Kane's choice, we want to start on him as the start of the scene. This scene does contain music. What I like to do when it comes to music and creating a rhythm to a scene is hit every other beat. And you don't have to hit the beat when you're cutting, but you can hit any other beat and it'll feel a bit more smoother and natural. Kind of like a music video, but not hitting every single beat when you cut. So if you look at the bottom, I've created markers for each of the beats. So I'll play through the song, and I'll just keep hitting the M key on the Premiere, but it can be on Avid or anything like that you can create markers. And I just go through and play the song and hit to the beat. And then it makes my life a lot easier when it comes to wanting to cut onto the beat, as well as that matching shots and things like that. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes it could be slightly off. It could be, on it. But that's generally how I like to get the scene started or get it moving a bit smoother. Feels a bit more natural with the music. As if the music is helping instead of dictating the scene. That's why you want to hit not every single one when you're cutting. You want to hit every other one, because then it doesn't mean that the music is dictating the scene. It just means that it's being involved. Then we cut to a shot of James' character getting undressed and taking off some clothes, all while Nat's character is watching from a fair distance away, because we want to have the both of them come together, and this is done very well using the blocking and things like that. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the script supervisor giving you a notes of what shots are best and what works well with continuity of the scene. It's very important to make sure that as much as the scene's good and that the take's good, that continuity is vital, especially when it comes to blocking, because what I like to do is when I'm cutting, I use movement and blocking to create the cut and make it seem a more seamless transition from each of the shots. So instead of cutting on like when there's dead space, which I can do sometimes when it comes to reaction and dialogue and speaking to each other, I like to use movement to get the cut just right and make it feel smooth into a scene, and that's done the best with great blocking from the actors. So for example, there's a bit here where he takes off his shirt from his shoulder there, but then cut it to exactly where it would be on the shoulder in the next shot, and makes it feel like almost a seamless transition. Kane then moves forward, Nat's character, and we cut to him where he takes a left step instead of from both shots. So it then makes it seem like the transition and movement is going with the film. So that means you won't feel like there's a cut there because it's just seamless moving. Yeah. Let me get to a close up here. What I like to do is use emotion and reaction shots. So mainly focus on the face. I like close-ups, especially in an intimate scene like this scene, because it just creates a bit more of involvement. You know what I mean? It creates a lot of intimacy and a lot of comfort when you're watching, and seeing the reaction and thing from both characters before you go to any action shots like close-ups to hands or anything like that, is to make sure the emotion's there before we get into the intimacy, which has done and performed very well from the both of them. If you see here, so he's gone from Nat to James to Nat again to a close-up of the hand. And James's hand touching his shirt, and then them both holding hands and unbuttoning his shirt together, which makes it a little bit more intimate, because I feel like hands are very important for intimacy. It creates like a very nice reason, you know, it's more sensual than sexual, I believe, and it just creates a nice moment. And then as soon as he's done unbuttoning the bottom, as you can see, James is still looking at the shirt from behind, but Nat is focused fully on his eyes, which I thought was very well done. All you have to do to get this type of stuff is just look at a few takes. I like to speak to the director most of the time and see what they feel like the best shot was, because most of the time editors aren't on set to be able to review which takes were good and which takes were bad. However, if you speak to the director personally and work a bit of a closer relationship with the director, or you read through the script supervisor notes, usually there's notes on there that tells you why the certain take is the best one. Going through here, and suddenly switches stances. So instead of it being now Nat staring into his eyes, it's James staring into his eyes as Nat unbuttons his own shirt at the bottom. Again, I cut on an action where the shirt went down his back, to then it going down his back again on the next shot. Again, it makes it feel a bit more seamless and a bit more like it's real, instead of it being noticeable cuts, because sometimes when you see a cut that's a bit too noticeable or a bit too choppy, it'll generally draw the audience out of the film, which is why you should really focus on, well, me personally, I like to focus on making sure that the specific movements can be cut to, and makes it a lot more seamless. Like for example here, Nat lifts up his hand to go stroke his hair, and I cut at the same point of where he is when he's about to stroke his hair. Have that close up of James's reaction during an action, which is always nice. It creates a lot of intimacy in that. And then in the dialogue here, I believe Nat's character tells James that he looks beautiful, and James's character says, do one, basically. All because he isn't ready yet, and he feels like this is lust instead of love. Then kissing, and it feels very sensual here. But then I cut to from Nat's perspective of what he feels like it's like kissing him, to then James's perspective, where he's very rough and and kissing quite thoroughly, and then rushing. And then here, Nat's character reacts to him rushing and says, wait. Used very well by creating like a few quick cuts to show he's rushing. And then as soon as he says wait, it goes into a long take. What you want to do, you got to be careful with long takes because you don't want it to linger. You want it to be at the perfect amount of time. So just try and feel for the scene and find a specific rhythm. And if it feels a bit too long lingering on a shot, probably just try and cut it down and see if there's any other shots that you can cut to just a tad bit before, because you don't want people to be like, oh, shots have been going on for ages, it's a bit boring. You want to make sure people are interested and fully invested in the scene. So here, I've made it a longer shot or a longer take, where he goes from a reaction of James being told to wait to then an action of Nat touching his chest and touching his necklace. And then they're both looking into each other's eyes this time to show that they both are willing to make love instead of it being lust, which is beautiful. And then if you see here, I've done it again, where it goes from him slightly stepping back and turning, to then him slightly stepping back and turning into the next shot, just a bit quicker. Still create, it's just that movement that you've got to capture. So as soon as you get it from here to there, try and cut it to another shot where it's there to there, because it creates a bit of a smoother cut, in my opinion, where you don't really notice that the cut's there because you're too invested in the scene. Then after 2 long takes, because of the entire wait scenario, Nat gets on top of him in bed, and you get a shot of Nat staring and looking at James, and then a shot of James looking up at Nat. Nat's character, Kane. And then I believe James's character says, "Can I touch you?" Which, in context of the script, and make sure you read the script before you start editing anything. You want to get a feel for how the characters are feeling in the scene itself. Yeah, and just maybe if you feel a bit confused about how they would be feeling in the scene, message the director and ask them how they feel like they'd feel. Because there's no harm in asking the director of how they interpret emotion and stuff in that film, in the scene, because you want to be working very closely with the director, and you want to make sure that you're creating their vision instead of your own, because you can interpret something that's said in a script completely different to a director, and it's more of helping create the vision for the director than creating your own vision. That's how I see it anyway. And it helps create a good work environment when you do that. If you look here, so it goes, Nat's character looks down, you get his reaction from him asking for consent to touch him. And then Nat's character's like, well, I've never had consent before, and gets a reaction. And says, yeah, of course. And I've used a L cut in this scenario. An L cut is where, say there's a bit of a dodgy audio on one clip, where you get a block clip. What an L cut is it uses the shots before audio and pushes it forward and overrides the previous shot next to its audio, but it keeps the same cut for the video. So it uses the end of the audio of the previous cut to create a beginning and a smoother transition into the next shot when it comes to audio. So a lot of cuts can be masked by using audio from either the shot before or the shot after, called L and J cuts, both extremely useful in different scenarios. And here I prefer to use a L cut because there was a lot of scratching audio in the one before, and it created like almost a blip noise when you cut. And to get rid of that, you just got to smooth it out and listen to how it would sound by itself. And you just, all you have to do is just create it later on, and then you're less likely to hear it as an audience and watching it back than you are to hear it when it's just a dead cut. And I like to use these a lot just to create a bit of almost smooth running when you're watching the film. And then anyway, you cut from not giving consent or saying, yeah, you can touch me, to then an action of James sitting up and putting his hand on his chest. Here. And then again, with the hands, it's very essential when you use hands. I believe it creates a lot more of an intimate moment. What I've done is, again, I've used movement and blocking of the hand going up his chest to cut to a reaction shot with an action of it being on Nat's chest, on his reaction of him touching his chest, which creates a very smooth, and it also adds to it because it has an action within a reaction. So it goes up and round, and you can see the emotion in how he's feeling in just by seeing the action itself. So I believe it creates a lot more emotional value. And then cut again to another shot of the hand going down his arm, and then to James's character's reaction of him touching him, and then like feeling a bit, and then he lays back, and Nat lays on top and starts kissing him. This bit is very intimate, and it's a great shot at following down. Usually when it comes to movement shots, instead of it being a static shot and of reaction, you like to make that last a bit longer to move from one block to another block. This really helps to almost keep organization when you're editing a scene. So if there's multiple blocks and there's multiple areas where the characters move and all of that, it's good to separate them into either camera movements or character movements. I believe it creates a lot more value when you're doing it. And then it also helps not to get you confused in case you've used a shot earlier, or in case you've done all that, because it'll be a different block. Yeah, so they start kissing, they start talking and whispering in the ear. But then I found there was this really nice shot done by the DOP, which is following the hand up the back. And it's weird because I think it's a very good trope in sex scenes in film, of the hand following up the back, because it shows how intimate and close we are to the characters in the scene, and almost peeping into their actual lives. I just think it works very well. Again, it was only a short clip because you don't need too much of it. You don't want it to linger. To then a longer shot of Nat's character kissing down James's character's chest. And to here. And then here, when it comes to more sexual and a bit more lustful, I generally make it a bit quicker because the scene isn't about lust. In this instance, anyway, if it was about lust in a different film, then obviously elongate the shots out and do how you would do normally when editing the scene. However, in this one, it's more about sensual instead of sexual. So I made the shots that have a lot more sexual connotations be a bit shorter and a bit more quicker because the scene isn't about that. So undoes the belt, undoes the zip, rubs his thighs to make him feel comfortable, which I think is very nice. And then he starts to undo his belt. And then the tables have turned, and instead of Nat's character saying, wait, it's now James's character saying, wait. As he sits up and he gets close to Nat's character. Both they're very close, very intimate. And what James's character starts doing is touching his chest again with his hands. Again, using the hands as a way of intimacy in the scene. Goes down. And then in the script, it says that Nat has a reaction. So he cut to James's reaction of Nat's reaction instead, because he flinches like that. And you see also in the end of the previous shot, Nat's body have a reaction of where he goes like that and breathes in. And James worries about him not enjoying it, James' character even, and basically goes, sorry. And you want to capture that reaction because it's clear that he's never done this before. And then get Nat's reaction to him saying that. What I like to do, because there was in this shot particular, there was a bit of blank space or a bit of dead space. What you have to think when cutting in this specific scenario is why? How would you react in the scenario when if you was with your partner and you was getting intimate like this and they had a reaction to something and you apologized, how would they react? Would they react straight away or would they linger for it a bit? In this case, I thought no, it wouldn't leave it a bit. He'd react straight away because he'd want him to make him feel comfortable. And he goes, instead of it going, sorry, blank, blank, blank. No, I really liked that. It goes, sorry, no, I really liked that. You know what I mean? It gives a bit more of an impact, especially in dialogue, where instead of it being clear that that they're just doing the lines, you should make it clear that it's a part of a conversation. So instead of each word and each dialogue being quite separate from each other, I like to usually go off of reaction and beat. So, for example, he'll go, "Oh, I'm sorry," and instead of going dun dun and waiting 2 beats, I go off the first beat where it goes dun like that. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Dun. No, I really like that. You know what I mean? It's like creates it. It makes it a bit. It feels a bit more real. That's what I'm trying to say. So it goes on. Because I really like that. And another close-up shot. Him touching down and going a bit further down instead of it being up here. It's more lower. But again, as I said earlier, I'd rather it be about sensual than sexual. So we cut that a bit shorter, this shot. And instead of having it go fully in where you can see it, we see Nat's reaction to it because most times when editing, and I found this a lot, is that what you want to do is you want to have most of it being emotion in a scene, especially when doing dramas, because you want to be focusing fully on here and the face and the subtlety in their reactions and things like that. And that's how you get the best out of drama, is making the audience feel emotional for the character. Well, that's how I see it anyway. So I'd say probably 50% of the cuts that you make should be dictated through reaction and emotion of a character's face. Yeah, so yeah, I believe James says, "I just want you." Or James' character says, "I just want you." And then Nat's reaction is, "I want you. I want you to make love to me." I believe the quote is, and again, these subtle actions as well. So it goes from here where they're talking and the reaction, these subtle actions here, where instead of going down there and grabbing his stuff, he's grabbing his hip. It's very more romantic and holding and comforting. I believe creates a lot more more sexual tension in the scene than anything else. Just there, the fact that James just can't take his eyes off him. James's character can't take his eyes off him. Like to follow the eyes, and then when they're both staring each other's eyes, and they just don't stop staring in each other's eyes, which just creates so much tension, and it's just brilliant performance, brilliant acting. You want to use these as much as possible, where you get all these subtleties of just not stopping staring in each other's eyes. Yeah, and then here cuts to James's reaction of him getting up, and then James laying down. Again, what I've done here is I've used an action of him sitting down to go into the next blocking and the next blocking of the scene, so I don't get confused and I know what's going on. And then as well as that, what I like to do is, what you can do is, if you look here, he follows his eye line because he's not stopped looking at Nat's character throughout this entire bit, which then cuts to him moving towards the bedside table. But you can get away with cutting to him going into the bedside table due to the fact that in the previous shot, his eyes are staring and keeping eye line with Nat's character, and that helps movement and keeping you in the scene, even though it's cut into a completely different shot somewhere else of Nat not getting out of bed, but in fact being already at the bedside table, because James's character's eyes are following him the entire time. And he goes here, he gets a close-up of the contraception. He gets up, picks up. And James lays down. His character lays down. And Nat's character gets on top. Again, almost like the start of the scene. Except they're both now ready. Then here, which is I thought was very beautiful, was him saying, "You, only you." See, it always has just been only them, which is lovely. And again, go to kissing, keeping that intimacy, but keeping it long. They take quite long. But then what I do is I cut on an action here. So on the roll, I cut in between the roll here and there to create smooth movement. And then cut into both their reactions. Then the quick burst of movement and things. Them taking off their stuff and getting ready. So then a long take of James getting ready because it's his first time and this is really his scene. Going forward, getting forward. And then going down. So it goes from this intimate bit. And then in this bit, James says, as Nat said at the start, where he says, "You're beautiful," and strokes his hair, and he told him to do one. This time, James is there in this position and goes, "You're beautiful too," and then that's how the scene ends. Like that, cutting to, "You're beautiful too," and then going into the bed. And what I've done is I've also made the song end with the last note at the end of the film, end of the scene, sorry. And then, yeah, that's the sex scene. So most of the stuff that I've told you in the sex scene generally can be used for a lot of other scenes as well, because there's a lot of intimacy in most filmmaking that you do. So if you're making the fight scene, there's intimacy and violence. If you're making an argument scene, there's an intimacy because of the emotions flying in the air. Because you don't really have an argument with someone without somewhat, especially in a film, they don't really have an argument without having some sort of emotional investment in the scene, and that creates a lot of emotions. And creating these fight scenes and argument scenes are generally quite intense and quite involved, as I'm going to show you next. Just quickly and briefly, I'm going to show you. So I'm now going to briefly show you the fight scene. It's only small, it's only a brief little section for you. I'm just going to show you what really happens in like the fight scene and how I edit together like a punch or things like that, or action, to make it seem a bit more realistic and indented in the scene. So here, he walks into a room, does a bit of a voiceover, walks past, and then says something quite nasty, does one of the characters, best in the 90s. You get a reaction out of him, which is the initial punch. But what I like to do is when it's on an action, so what, like, goes in for a punch like that, before you see him get hit, you cut to him ending the punch and his reaction falling back from a different angle, just so you don't have to see actual like violence or fake violence. Just so if you spend too long on one of the punches, you'll feel like it's fake, because obviously in every film it's not real when they're punching. Well, most of the time it's not real, unless it's like stunt guys and stuff. But most of the time you want to like cut to a different one, just so you can feel the impact of it, but just not following all the way through. And you don't want it to look fake when you're punching, because it's meant to be you're meant to keep the audience feeling like it's a real scenario. As he goes through, it ends up running and putting him to the floor. You get both the lads' reactions of like things like that, and then as well as that, what you like to do is cut back and forth, and then there'll be a shot with him with makeup on of having blood going down his nose, and a shot without. You get that one punch through, then you cut back to him punching, and then as he pulls it back, cut to him with a bloody nose on his face and stuff like that, and it makes it feel real, as if like he's actually having a fight and things are actually happening, and yeah, it just creates these moments. And then there's a scuffle as they're getting up. Again, leading to one final run, and then a quick cut from him running over to him getting punched. As you saw there in slow motion, doesn't quite look real, but it goes black as soon as he hits. If you're playing full, because it's such a short clip, you can't really see. And it goes to black to show that he's been knocked out, and then goes to another scene. Yeah, so that's just the general idea of how I go through a scene and different types of scenes. Just mainly focusing on the sex scene, because I like to create showing intimacy in different versions. So like there's the violent intimacy, which is the fight scene. There's the awkward intimacy, which is the argument scene, and then there's the sexual and sensual intimacy, which is the sex scene, which I'm mainly focused on today. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to follow my Instagram, which is Harkness_editor, and ask me any questions on there. Just send me anything, and I'll get back to you, and we can have a conversation about how you feel about it. But then, yeah, just feel free to message me, let you know what you think, and we can talk through things. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask. I'm very much open to any ideas or anything like that, or how you feel about how to do these scenes, because obviously it's just coming from my mindset of how I would edit a scene. But yeah, just feel free to give me a message. Right, so I'm now going to answer quickly just a few questions that I've been given and been sent in. Just a few minor ones, which is like the first question: what made you want to get into editing? When I was younger, I was at school, and I actually used to do like little YouTube videos because I was bored, and I liked editing. And I was like, I just suddenly got into like film and video. Did a few YouTube videos, and just, you know, try to do it as best as I could. My first initial video was actually doing a little football club in my local town. They did a crossbar challenge video, which is cute, and it was for my little brother's team. And I edited it together and put on some music and stuff like that, and they all seemed to quite enjoy it. It was very basic, but it was just, you know, nice to do that. And yeah, that was how I initially started, and then I've just been obsessed with it since. And I went to college to learn to do it, went to uni to learn to do it, and then it's just that's how I got involved with it. And then another question, which is what is your favorite thing to edit? And me personally, I'm massively into drama, getting emotional value from actors and actresses, and doing it that way, because I just find it just more entertaining to watch when there's emotional value and you can get invested into it. I've never had a chance to do an action, and I've never had a chance to do any proper, you know, like horrors or anything like that. So I really like drama because that's where my bread and butter stands. Comedy is very difficult to edit, and I've never really been able to master it just yet, but I'm hoping to get there soon. But with drama, I know where my bread and butter stood, so I know how I can go through a scene, how I can get the best investment in a scene with drama. So another question, which is how do you train or learn to be an editor? Is film school necessary, or can you learn online? Film school isn't necessary, but I'd say it's helpful. The only reason why I found it helpful was because it gave me a ton more experience in editing film, because they make you make films and you're constantly doing it. And the more experience you have, the better you get at it, I find. So the more and more you do it, the better you get. but it's all about making sure that you don't like use like default footage and learn from that, because you want to be making something that you're passionate about. Well, that's what I find anyway, that when there's a film that you're passionate about, you put more effort into making it look good and sound good and things like that. Oh, bless me. Yeah, and I trained at Leeds City College, did a TV and film course, which was pretty good. It was very useful for like doing the basic stuff and then learning a bit of After Effects, doing a bit of things like that. However, where I properly felt like I put my feet in the ground and knew what I was doing was at Leeds University doing filmmaking, because I just felt like I was just more headstrong on the path that I wanted to go down, and there was a lot more talented and a lot more funding. So there was a lot more talented people and a lot more funding when it comes to that stuff. That you can make some great stuff as a student, and it also, it's just experience. Helps you get helps you push yourself forward into it, and makes it probably a lot more fun experience when you eventually get out there and realize that you can get paid for doing the job that you love. And you can learn online, you can, but personally, I like learning from experience. Because if I don't learn from experience, I'll just really struggle. I always struggled academically to learn from reading. I always preferred doing it and over and over again until I got a little bit better at it each time. And I find that now today, I find myself getting better and better each time, just by doing loads of films, and you got to just keep trying with it. The more you do, the better you'll get. It's just practice. It's like riding a bike. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at riding the bike. How do you find projects to work on as an editor? What you have to do is you've got to proper promote yourself. You've got to proper be self-confident in yourself to send out showreels, send out CVs, things like that. You can't be waiting for people to come to you, because it's never going to happen. You've got to proper push and get it. And if you're at film school, if you're doing anything like that, I'd start as soon as possible. The quicker you get on to doing more work, the more experience you get, the better you get, and the better the work you get. That's what I found anyway. So when I've been like looking for jobs and stuff like that, and finding stuff, I use LinkedIn quite a lot. I've been approached a few times from LinkedIn and done a few jobs from LinkedIn itself. It's very useful, and I'd probably use that as one of my main components of getting jobs, especially when you put a showreel on. You must have a showreel. You've got to show off your work as much as possible. Otherwise, people can't trust how good you are at your job unless they see from your best of the best work. That's how I find it. And final question is, what's your favorite work you've edited and why? So I've got a few favorites. I've got a lot of uni stuff that I enjoyed, because it's more nostalgia. So a few things that I've edited at uni have been like quite good, gone into a few festivals, and that's like one of the first films that I've done to go into festivals. It's called A Picture Called Motion. That one's one of my favorites because it finally showed off my what I can do really as an editor. And my favorite, like outside of uni and all of that, is this new one that I've just shown bits of you about. It's called Firelight, made by the great people at Oxygen Films, the production company that I've been working with. And yeah, they're just a brilliant set of people, and they're making great films, I believe. And yeah, it's a great short film. I really enjoyed that one, working on it and everything, because I felt like the story just runs so smoothly through the things, and it's a beautiful story as well. But yeah, that's basically all the questions that I've been sent in. I really appreciate you listening in and watching the workshop. I hope you have a great rest of the festival. This is Tom Harkness, editor again. If you want to ask any questions, feel free at Thomas Harkness _editor at Instagram. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope that you felt this was useful, and I hope that you didn't get too bored from me speaking. Thanks again. Have a good rest of the festival, guys.